Now then, Vinyl Monkey again. Welcome back. I'm continuing this theme of sort of ranking some of my albums by particular artists, and this week, what a pleasure, T-Rex, formerly Tyrannosaurus Rex, Mark Bolan's band. I basically grew up with T-Rex. I suppose I was, 12 when they transformed from Tyrannosaurus Rex. They'd had 3 or 4 albums out there which were sort of folky, cosmic magic folk, weird sort of mainly acoustic stuff that didn't really come across my radar as a kid at that time, but bloody hell, when that single came out, it was the first single I ever bought with my own money, was Ride a White Swan in 1970, and from that time onwards I think I've always been a T-Rex fan, and so I'm gonna have a go at ranking their albums. It's been quite tricky actually, because I've listened to them twice and I should have put some joint ones in, but you don't really want to hear me doing that. You want to see what order I'm ranking in, so you can argue with it. So I'm going to have a go anyway. And they made 8 albums from when they changed their name in 1970 to T-Rex. They made 8 albums until tragically Mark Bolan died in 1977. So they made pretty much an album, or released an album every year, and just going to very, very quickly go through them. Yeah, I mentioned I bought Ride a White Swan, my first single, great record. I mean, at that time, actually, often singles went on LPs because people thought, well, why would people pay twice for them? Different times, obviously. So Ride a White Swan and their follow-up single, Hot Love, brilliant, were never on any of the LPs, but I did buy that single in Bruce Moore's in my hometown here in Hartlepool. Bruce Moore's, the shop where I bought my first records, then subsequently my first motorbike, and then after that my first washing machine. And yeah, they were the days when you could buy all of those sorts of things in the same shop, locally owned business on the high street here in Hartlepool. Yeah, great days. So without further ado, my number 8 is actually T-Rex's debut album, if you like, the first since they changed their name. And unfortunately I lost in the mists of time the cover to this album, which there's the label, the Fly label, which they started out on, which is a real shame because it's a great cover with a brilliant photo of Mark Bolan and Mickey Finn, sort of brown background as I remember it. But this was the eponymous album, self-titled, T-Rex, from 1970. And while this was their first album under the name of T-Rex, you could say, some people might argue really it was their last album or 5th album as Tyrannosaurus Rex, because it does retain, it is the sort of watershed, if you like, between that cosmic magic, folky, weird, pixie stuff to the launch of glam rock, which you could say Mark Bolan invented really and launched. And there are some signs on here of what was to come, with songs like Beltane Walk, 1 Inch Rock, but there's still plenty of the sound is very much like Tyrannosaurus Rex. There's no drummer or bass, for example. It is just Mark Bolan on guitar and Mickey Finn on sort of bongos and things. So that's my number 8. It's their debut album as T-Rex from 1970. My number 7 is from 1976. This is Futuristic Dragon. Generally speaking, T-Rex's album covers weren't great. I mean, I think this is truly awful, right over the top. Mark Bolan on a dragon there with a lance, and I mean, the great thing, one of the reasons I've always loved Mark Bolan, and why I think many old punks like me stuck by him and stuck with him was his total lack of pretension. His music by this point was all about well, by the point of his second album, really, it was all about simple grooves and sort of simple, magical, poetical lyrics, but done with without any pretension, with a sense of humour. Just a really sound bloke, I suspect. Obviously never had the pleasure of meeting the guy, but this is my number 7, Futuristic Dragon from 1976, and this album sort of, I think it acknowledges the sort of influence of disco that was becoming strong at the time. Lots of soul backing vocals. There's great intros to side 1 and 2, sort of instrumental intros, and the one on side 2 is definitely a homage to Barry White. It sounds like it could be the Love Unlimited Orchestra. It's great stuff. But after those intros, great consistent songs, a good album. I mean, by this time he was at an all-time low, I think, critically, commercially. There was no hit singles on here, but listening to it now, it stands up. It's really, really nice album to listen to. My number 7, Futuristic Dragon. My number 6 was from the year before, from 1975, Bolan's Zip Gun. This really is a sort of glam rock soul hybrid. Again, sort of lots of backing vocals. There's a great vibe to this album. A couple of great tracks, Token of My Love and I Really Love You Babe. Brilliant tracks. A real good sound and a good vibe. And apparently this is often and regularly played on black radio stations in America to this day. So good stuff again. Bolan's Zip Gun from 1975. Again, not a brilliant cover really. Could have spent a bit more time on that. My number 5. This is, and I have to read this because I only ever call it the Zinc Alloy album, but it is Zinc Alloy and the Hidden Riders of Tomorrow. A creamed cage in August. So yeah, it's a bit like Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars type title for, I think, which some of the critics had a go at him about, because this came out obviously well after that. This was from 1974. This signalled a new sort of direction in Bolan's music. It was sort of definitely funk influenced, while some of it sounds like Bowie a year or two after this, towards the sort of young American stuff that Bowie would bring out. And one or two of the tracks sound a little bit Lou Reed-esque even on here. There's definitely sort of American feel to a lot of the songs on here, but it's an album that's absolutely brimful of good ideas, I think. He was exploring new directions. Again, there weren't hit singles on here, but the song Teenage Dream, absolutely superb. So that's my number 5, Zinc Alloy and the Hidden Riders of Tomorrow from 1974. My number 4, this is Tanks from 1973. This album, it sort of builds on the previous two, Electric Warrior and The Slider, but there's a bit more of an expansive sound. There's backing singers, there's strings, there's more instruments. Absolutely great songs. No hits again on this one, but some brilliant songs. Tenement Lady, Rapids, Electric Slim, Mr., a great track, and it came with a lovely poster inside, which I've kept, and it's one day it'll end up on my wall. But look at that, yeah, fantastic. What a bonny lad he was, wasn't he? But so that's my number 4. That's Tanks from 1973. My number 3. Oh dear me, where have I put the cover? Hang on 1 second. It's over there. I've just been playing it again. Yeah, this is This is T-Rex's last album, sadly. This is Dandy in the Underworld from 1977. He died just shortly after recording this album. Tragically, I think most people will know he was in a car crash. His girlfriend Gloria Jones driving a car into a tree in South London. This, I find listening to this really, really sad, and that's partly because he died so prematurely and so soon afterwards, but also because it's such a positive, sort of joyful, uplifting album. Absolutely brilliant songs from the beginning to the end. Bit back to the simple riffs. They've still got the poetic lyrics, but loads and loads of new ideas. The whole of side one, which sort of ends with the single I Love to Boogie, absolutely brilliant. Dandy in the Underworld itself, Crimson Moon, Universe, and on. But brilliant stuff, and a sign that I think a year before, Bolan had been written off. Well, 2 years before, probably for the previous 2 years to this, he'd been pretty much written off by the critics and the fans to some extent. That sort of given up. They weren't buying his records, his singles weren't charting. But by this time he'd apparently given up the cocaine, and he'd pulled himself round a bit, and he demonstrated he's still absolutely full of new ideas, and it's a signal that, who knows where he would have gone, but he certainly wasn't petering out. This is a great album, and it sounds brilliant today. It still stands up right up there. Listening to it these days, and it coincided also with him being given his own TV show on Granada Telly. Again, just before he died. I think it only produced the first series, 6 shows or something like that, where basically T-Rex would do 2 or 3 songs, and he would have in some guest artists, and they were generally punk bands, but an eclectic mix really of some glam rock stuff, some rock stuff. Bowie, his friend Dave Bowie, played on the last of those series, sang Heroes. Great stuff. A second series was commissioned, but of course he didn't live to undertake it. But those series are still on the internet. As I say, he sort of cemented himself a position as the godfather of punk, which on the one hand seems unlikely, but on the other, I think it is that lack of pretension and that those simple sort of riffs that the punks sort of grew up with, like the Johnny Rotten and Co. are all about my age, and Mark Bolan was into them, was keen to give him a chance, and the punks liked him, and I liked him. So this is a brilliant album. This is my number 3, T-Rex's last, Dandy in the Underworld from 1977. My number 2, this is The Slider from 1972, and while I say that generally T-Rex's album covers I don't think were great, this one I do think is great. It's an absolutely stunning photo. The back is simply the back photo of the back view of the front of the cover, but I just think the graphics and the sort of blurry photo, the black and white, and the photo was actually taken by Ringo Starr, again close friend of Mark Bolan, and but this album, apart from the great cover, it's sort of got a bit of a fuller production. It's the first time he's really made use of strings. It has those 2 great singles, Metal Guru and Telegram Sam, but other brilliant tracks even stronger than those, Rabbit Fighter, Ballroom of Mars. Brilliant stuff. Huge, really consistent album, really building on what came the year before, and cementing him as really a sort of glam rock deity, really. Superb stuff. T-Rex, The Slider, 1972. And then my number 1 album is, you won't be surprised to hear this iconic cover. I hope you can see that because it's sort of black on black really, but that's Matt Bolan with his electric guitar. I've got to say what a great guitarist he is, and this is the album I think where his guitar sound really stands out. The sound on this album, the production, Tony Visconti's production, superb. So this is Electric Warrior from '71. This album launched glam rock. He brought in a bassist, Steve Curry, and a drummer, Bill Legend, to supplement Mickey Finn's bongos. He was singing the same sort of themes, you know, these sort of cosmic, weird themes that he'd been always doing with Tyrannosaurus Rex, but there were a lot less words, it was simpler. But the grooves and the riffs and the beats on this are just absolutely to die for. Brilliant sound, as I say, just stands up today because of its lack of pretension. I've got two copies of this. I've got this and I've got the Mo-Fi sort of audiophile copy, which I get out now and again, but whether I'm listening to this one, the original, or that one, this is one of the truly great albums. If there's anybody out there who hasn't got this album, stop watching this video. Well, I'm nearly finished anyway, so you don't need to stop now. Go out and buy it. It is an absolute must in my view in any record collection. That's T-Rex, a masterpiece, Electric Warrior, 1971. Brilliant. Okay, so thank you for listening and watching, and I'll be on to another couple of top 10s. I'm going to be looking at Jethro Tull and Elton John, probably over the next couple of weeks. So cheers, bye.